Tomorrow, it's primary day again, and one of the key races being watched is the Arizona Senate race. Today, as a part of our Behind the Ballot series, we're going to talk to the challenger in that race, J.D. Hayworth, who hopes to retire, John McCain. Welcome, Congressman. I want to start with, this was a pretty close race in the polls, but now the polls seem to have opened up a little bit. Senator McCain appears to have a lead, and I notice a headline in the Hill newspaper that says, McCain poised to crush Hayworth on Tuesday. So what happened?
Well, first of all, the Hill's headline will be proven wrong tomorrow night. We are poised to pull one of the greatest upsets in political history. Now, Mr. Campaign Finance Reform, John McCain, has absolutely run away from that position. Instead of lecturing us on the evils of big money, he has spent $21 million, largely in attack ads, mischaracterizing my record. I guess if we wanted to be brutally honest about it, John McCain is using the lie and buy strategy. Lie about my record, try to buy this primary election, but tomorrow I don't believe conservatives and Republicans can be bought in the Arizona primary. I believe I will win because I'm a consistent conservative, and I don't think the voters of Arizona are prepared to accept any ridiculously expensive imitations.
I want to get to those ads in a minute, but so play the scenario out then for me. Where does the surge of support come for in the end for you?
Well, in the final analysis, conservatives who are motivated to vote will take a look at the ballot tomorrow and they'll say, gee, I could vote for John McCain, but he's double-crossed me on any number of issues. He says now he's against amnesty, but do I really want to take that chance? On the other hand, we have J.D. Hayworth on the ballot, and while Mr. McCain has spent $21 million pointing out so-called flaws in J.D.'s candidacy, the fact is, whatever those so-called flaws are, I know that J.D. will do what he says and says what he means and will vote from a consistently conservative standpoint. And so you take a look at that, couple that with the fact that now our gubernatorial primary is uncontested. Jan Brewer, the incumbent, coasts to a win there. That actually depresses the turnout of moderate voters who might be more inclined to vote for Mr. McCain. The wind is still at my back politically, even though the spending has been overboard from the one-time leading proponent of so-called campaign finance reform.
This was supposed to be the year of the outsider. John McCain's been in Washington for a pretty long time. He's an insider, as you say. He's at odds with some in his party. But but in this race, though, being an insider doesn't seem to have hurt him.
Well, no. What he's done is he has done the cynical old Washington inside trick. John doesn't want to run on his record because it's so contrary to what conservatives want to see. So that's why you've seen him spend a record amount of money here in Arizona, $21 million, to try and change the subject, to try and make me the focus. But the bottom line, the $21 million notwithstanding, is this. John McCain can try to run from his record, but tomorrow the voters will still remember that record, and that is why I am poised to pull an upset of historic proportions here in Arizona.
Congressman, characterize for me, if you would, that anti-insider sentiment as you've experienced it in your campaigning during this campaign.
Well, the disconnection between John McCain and the voting public in Arizona can be summed up in really almost alphabetical order. A is for amnesty. McCain has tried to shove it down the throats of Americans, and particularly Arizonans, twice, an amnesty that would cost $2.6 trillion long-term for retirement benefits for illegals granted citizenship. B is for the bailouts. John voted for that $700 billion for the Wall Street investment banks and another $150 billion in earmarks. C is for cap and trade. John co-authored that bill with Joe Lieberman in the last Congress. And then D is for the dollars in voters' pockets. And even in this tough time, there are more of them because I championed tax cuts in 2001 and 2003 when I was in the House and on the Ways and Means Committee, tax cuts that John McCain voted against on both occasions, calling them tax cuts for the wealthy, sounding a lot more like John Kerry than the John McCain Arizonans were used to voting for. And so you're just seeing this change from John McCain, where he lines up opposite conservative values, and $21 million or even more will not be enough to win this thing tomorrow for Mr. McCain. There's just there is a gap, a rhetorical gap as broad and deep as the Grand Canyon when it comes to Mr. McCain's record and now Mr. McCain's campaign promises.
Well, some of the 21 million is going towards ads, and particularly a pretty tough last one here. I want to show it to our viewers and then get your reaction about it.
Congressman J.D. Hayworth did favors for the infamous Jack Abramoff and his friends. He received $150,000 from Abramoff and his clients. John McCain exposed the Abramoff scandal. Jack went to prison. And most politicians gave back all the tainted money. But not J.D. He kept the money. John McCain. Character matters.
I'm John McCain, and I approve this message.
What's your reaction to that ad?
Well, let me start with a point that I'd like to echo. Character matters, especially when the senior senator displays no character. He knows that ad is completely false, and there are so many untruths, it's tough to know where to begin. But let me just concentrate on the fact that John McCain chaired hearings in 2006 concerning Mr. Abramoff and his relationship with members of the Senate and members of the House of Representatives. My name never came up. My name was never part of any sort of report. John McCain knows that. And to run an ad that is blatantly false, I'm sorry to say this, it's part and parcel of a lie and buy strategy. Character matters, and what we are seeing is that John McCain, sadly, has lost whatever character he had. Instead of being a senior statesman who should be revered and, quite frankly, should be voluntarily retiring, what we are seeing from John McCain is a cynical political shapeshifter, and that is another reason Arizonans see through this disconnection and why John McCain will be retired by the voters tomorrow in an upset that will shake Washington to its very foundation.
But isn't it kind of hard to run as an outsider against an insider when you do have at least some relationship? You even mentioned your activity on the Ways and Means Committee to the way Washington works and its most inside behavior.
Well, the Ways and Means Committee, what did I do when I served on that committee? I cut taxes on Americans. We helped reinvigorate the economy in some uncertain days in 2001 and 2003. And again, my opponent voted against those tax cuts. Now he's tried to reverse himself and say those tax cuts should be extended. No, look, shapeshifter, chameleon, someone without the courage of his convictions. John McCain has just turned into another Washington politician. Sure, I served in Washington, but I've had the benefit of being back home. So I know what works, I know what doesn't, and I know the tricks and traps of what goes on the banks of the Potomac. So I will return to Washington as an older and wiser, but still as a very conservative member of the United States Senate. That's the change Arizonans want to see, the right kind of change, and it begins tomorrow with a primary upset of historic proportions.
Congressman, regardless of who wins, it doesn't seem like a unity rally with the two of you arm in arm after this primary is over is really a possibility.
Well, let me make it very clear. I will support the Republican ticket. I plan to head the Republican ticket. But John McCain, you've read the biographies. He was given the nickname in high school McNasty, and you can see why, because of his conduct in this campaign.
Let me ask you as a final question. You've made your appeal to conservatives in the Republican Party. You've run a radio ad talking about your Christian faith and how it's so important to you. And I just want to get your reflection on this poll that came out last week that's generated a lot of comment about a number of people, 31% of Republicans indeed, who think that President Obama is a Muslim. Why do you think they think that?
Well, first of all, let me say that I believe faith is a deeply personal matter, and I take President Obama at his word. He is a professing Christian. However, when you set apart personal beliefs for the statecraft of the presidency, understand that Mr. Obama's outreach to such notorious leaders in the Muslim world as Ahmadinejad, which has been paid back by now. What is Ahmadinejad talking about? A new missile called the Ambassador of Death. That outreach in the minds of many Americans, equates with appeasement. And so there may be some confusion there, but speaking for me personally, I take the president at his word. He is a professing Christian, but some of the actions he has taken, I believe, have been ill-advised in terms of outreach to the Muslim world that in the post-9/11 age, and especially in the wake of what we're seeing now out of Iran, can only be clearly defined as appeasement.
Okay. All right. J.D. Hayworth, thank you so much for being with us. Good luck tomorrow, and we'll talk to you afterwards maybe.
Thank you very much.